Call us to order at 5:36, whatever it is. And we have an adjustment to the agenda,
Yes.
I understand.
We're going to add Richard Coutant, our town attorney, to talk about the Trans-Canada appeal.
Richard. Go.
So you can add that to the top of new business after we accept the minutes.
And
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of, January 28th.
I second that.
All right, if there's any other questions, further discussion? Moved and seconded to accept the minutes of January 28th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And on to new business. Mr. Coutant.
Okay, this is pending litigation, so that we can, if the board so chooses, go into executive session. I am perfectly happy to discuss the procedural status of the case, what the scheduling is, what the positions of the parties are in public. I have no problem doing that. If the board is interested in my impressions of the strengths or weaknesses of the positions of the parties, I'm not comfortable discussing that in public. I'm not comfortable discussing litigation or negotiation strategy. But the case is at such an early stage that I'm not sure I would have a lot to say about that anyway. So I'm perfectly happy to start off with the nuts and bolts aspect of this.
How about we do that? We
in
go
public.
Public.
Even though it's a subject that you could go into executive session on, my personal preference is to discuss whatever can be discussed in public.
Why don't we do that? And if we have any stickling points, we'll go into executive session for as brief. Would we be taking any actions today on that?
No. I just wanted to say
If not,
I ended up leaving early to go to urgent care with my daughter, so I didn't get the taxes to you, but I do have it. So if we want to talk about that part.
so we'll go through this as much as we can in public discussion, and then any litigation issues that need to be covered in executive session we'll do briefly at the end of the public discussion. How's that sound?
The issue here involves easement rights owned by TransCanada Hydro Northeast in Putney. Their flowage rights gives TransCanada the right, within certain parameters, to flood land. Traditionally in Putney, these rights were not assessed or taxed. In the process of the whole assessment of the hydroelectric property on the Connecticut River, all the way from Massachusetts to Canada, which was commissioned by the state of Vermont, the appraisers who were hired by the state determined that this land, these rights, had value and assigned values to them. So effective with the reappraisal of 2014, in Putney, the listers put those rights on the grand list at a value of $1,864,300. 1,242 point something or other acres of property. TransCanada's position, to summarize it, is that the per acre value they don't disagree with, but they take the position that the area in Putney that's actually flooded up to the maximum level that they're allowed to raise the river to is only 20 or 30 acres. So the difference in valuation and tax receipt is very wide. We have a pretrial schedule that has been approved by the court that largely because of the scheduling of our expert. The appraiser's name is George Sansucci, and he's done all this hydroelectric work for the state, a lot of other work for towns around here, and he's in litigation in over half the states in the country, I think. And he's scheduled, I've seen his schedule, he's booked up sometimes more than a year in advance. So what we have currently as a schedule is that TransCanada is supposed to disclose their expert appraisers to us and provide us with their reports by the 1st of June. We have an opportunity to depose those experts by the 1st of August. We have a tentative date in December for TransCanada to depose Mr. Sansucci. We have a tentative deadline for mediation in the case, which is required by the court to take place before the end of 2015. All of the pretrial work is to be complete and the case ready for trial by the 1st of April of 2016. And we have actually a couple of more than tentative dates for trial in April of 2016. But it's a very prolonged process. Now, the other aspect of this that affects the town is that there is a risk if the case goes forward to trial and if the judge agrees with TransCanada that all they're liable to pay tax on is 20 or 30 acres, the tax that they have paid for 2014 on the $1,864,000 valuation is refundable back to them with interest. And also, just to continue with the bad news aspect of this, the state of Vermont has no obligation and has told me that they have no inclination to adjust the town's education grand list if that happens. So the money has already gone into the town up to the state for their education property tax, and if there's a refund or a credit, it comes out of the town's coffers without any assistance from Montpelier. Last year, the legislature had appropriated some money. It wasn't a whole lot. I think it was a total of $50,000 to help towns defray the cost legal fees in defending against these appeals. The town's paying Sansucci, so the state is paying Sansucci. There's no cost for the experts, but that money is gone. And I talked with counsel to the tax department a couple of weeks ago, and they were not terribly optimistic that the legislature was going to appropriate anything more this year to help towns with attorney's fees. As far as I know, the company, TransCanada, has retained an appraiser in Burlington, a guy named George Silver, who will be their expert on this. I have dealt with Mr. Silver before. He was an expert for Velco in a tax appeal that I tried a couple of years ago down in Vernon, so I've seen him. That's really about what I can tell you at this point. I haven't seen the exact tax numbers, so I don't have a Sure. I don't have a calculation. I don't have a calculation for you as to what the payback might be, but including the education tax, what TransCanada paid for 2014 was $38,550. And if the value was dropped to something like 30,000, they'd be entitled to virtually all of that back together with interest at 12%. So that's the risk on the town's end here, aside from probably it's really impossible to predict attorney's fees with any accuracy, but I think we're talking easily $10,000 in attorney's fees to take depositions and prepare this and try it, maybe more than that.
So can I, and then in the meantime, we will be billing another whole year,
Yeah,
which
Right.
at the same
Yes.
value.
at the same value.
2015 to trial in 2016.
Mr. Sansucci and his associates feel very comfortable that their appraisal is reasonable, will stand up. Their position is that these flowage easements, the full extent of them, whether they're actually ever underwater or not, is necessary for the company to own in order for the company to get a license to operate the power plant. And that's the sort of logical background that they're basing their assessment on, that the company has to own these easements, whether they're actually used or not, in order to get a FERC license. And this is what it would cost them to acquire those easements now. So it's the fair market value in 2014.
Yeah, I guess that's, so they say they only flood some 30 acres or so, but they do own that 1,432.
They have that
Right.
number of acres available to them. They own rights on that number of acres. But of course, you know what the geography of this side of the river is like here. It's a
Right.
steep bank, and you can raise the water level considerably before you start spreading out over somebody's field.
So they don't technically own any, for example, a farm that's down on the river owns the land right to the water, is that correct?
They do.
But TransCanada just owns that right.
They own the right, flowage right, the right to flood.
So why
Somebody's property.
isn't that double taxing?
That's a discussion that I don't think I feel capable or entirely comfortable of getting into here. That's one of TransCanada's arguments. And of course, I don't know, as I sit here now, whether there's any consideration given in the assessment of the properties subject to those easements.
That easement technically.
That easement
Right.
detracts from the value of that property.
There is.
Yeah.
To the full extent of the acreage that TransCanada
There is,
has an
because it's
easement to.
always, because it's always best, highest and best use. And if there's an easement, then that's an infringement that does affect.
And that's a very common, tax assessment theory, that the land that's burdened by the easement has a reduced value that should be comparable to the value of the easement, and that the total value of the what they call the bundle of rights that goes with land remains the same, and it's just apportioned among
Differently.
the different people who own different pieces of that bundle, and that's what the town is doing here, and it certainly, makes sense and can be defended.
So if TransCanada were to win, would you then have to change the assessment on everybody's property that abuts the river?
It would affect, if a judge decreed that we had to change the value, it would affect the value on TransCanada. I don't know whether or not we would then have to go and effectively up everybody else's value, because the easement would still exist.
Yeah, I think that's a question that nobody has thought through yet.
Because the easement doesn't not exist.
Right, it just, I mean, in theory, since all of this acreage exists, somebody should pay taxes on it.
I guess the question is.
Personally, I'd
is it a
rather have
one-to-one?
TransCanada.
I guess the question is it really a one-to-one thing right now? There is an effect because that easement's there, but I don't know if it's like, that's the question.
No, that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what I'm
Yeah.
wondering, is if, you know, if we were to lose that amount of revenue from TransCanada, would we make up, you know, 10%, 50%, 80% of that in what we, that, or is that just lost revenue because the easement still exists, as you say?
It would be lost revenue to the year that we're adjusting for TransCanada, because you can't go back and adjust.
Right, no,
From that
right.
point forward.
Yeah, from that point forward, but then can all those people come in, I mean, I would assume then, exactly, if,
Yeah.
you know, if I were a landowner and you came and said you owe us $4,000 more a year because TransCanada is not paying their portion of this, I'd come and grieve it. I mean,
Sure. Well, that was why when they initially grieved, we went to the Board of Civil Authority.
TransCanada.
Yeah. And then TransCanada and George Sansouci came and they pleaded their case to the town, to the Board of Civil Authority. So it wasn't just the listers making the decision.
Right.
It was the whole.
But
you
yeah,
know.
that's not what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Value after this is over.
Yeah.
Right. And so we
That's
won't
procedure.
know.
Yeah.
We won't know until.
And I don't know whether the potential impact on the valuation of the underlying land will even be raised as an issue in this appeal. My immediate inclination is what this appeal is about is the fair market value of these easements. And what the listers do or don't do with other people's
With the
property
outcome,
or what
right.
might happen depending on the outcome of this. You know, I don't want to
It's
confuse.
almost a different case.
I don't want to
Yeah.
confuse a judge
Yeah.
any more than they're already going to be confused.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Is this a judgment or a trial by jury?
It's no jury trial.
No jury.
Tax appeal.
Just curious.
It's just a trial to the court.
Yep. Sorry. So we're convincing the judge. Has this have similar cases all gone against the towns, or is there any
There
precedent
is
for some of
little,
the
if
towns?
any, precedent in this state. Now, I have not looked nationwide
But in
for
this-
comparable tax issues, and it's difficult to translate
Sure.
tax issues from state to state because the criteria differ so much. In Vermont, I don't think there has ever been a case, either before the state appraiser or in the courts, involving these flowage easements that has gone up on appeal or had, you know, a final decision on the law. That's why it's very difficult to imagine how it's going to be looked at. You know, and it's even though it's a different county, a different judge, it's going to be interesting to be able to see what happens in Newbury.
And
When is there-
similar cases are taking place along the New Hampshire side of the river as well.
Presumably, there
so.
are. Now, New Hampshire assessment and tax law is not identical to Vermont's, and how much bearing that would have on what happened here, I don't know. But I assume there are similar cases.
So us coming up in April of 2016, would that put us sort of at the beginning of, you know, sort of a list of towns going?
No, that would put us fairly near the end.
fairly near the
So we
end.
will
So
have-
we'll have a chance to
We will have,
observe.
if the case in Newbury, for example, which is the one that I'm aware of, that raises issues that are very similar, as far as I know, to what the issues are here. If that goes forward on its predicted schedule, we should have that case tried and a decision made before we get to court here. I don't know exactly what the trial date set, if there is one for Newbury, but they're taking depositions now, and we're scheduled to do that well, in August and then in December. So they're the better part of a year ahead.
Yeah.
What do you guys all have to say about that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
Well, it's quite a
But-
twisted tale.
They cannot operate without those easement rights. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Right.
So it has immense value, the way I see it. It has huge value because if you took it away,
Which what I
then
would,
they'd lose everything.
right, I would suggest that was the BOC's argument. That,
So right, I mean, I just don't.
that how do you, if they had to do it today, the process that they would have to go through in order to get those easements to comply would cost, would be staggering.
So it seems like as if it's essential. I mean, in fact, it's worth more to them than it is to the farmer.
I guess the
You know?
question in my mind as to that is if they're saying they only actually use 20 or 30 acres, could they prove, and of course it would cost a fortune to prove it, but could they prove if they were renegotiating or starting from point A now that they actually only use that 20 to 30 acres and only need the easement on that? And I don't know whether that sort of impacts the outcome or not, but
Does
What
that,
they-
right, does that 20
how do they come up with that number and feel comfortable with it?
Right.
You
Well,
know?
from recalling looking at those maps, when I mean, basically it was the entire shoreline,
Right.
all the indent
Little
and whatnot,
inlets
right,
and-
right,
yeah,
which gives the number of acreage so high, or
Exponentially
it seems so
yeah.
high.
Well, because it's an actual
Sure,
number.
yeah,
It's
no,
a shoreline
right,
number.
it is a measurement,
It
right.
isn't- Like if they're saying that.
And then
they
the
only use a
argument
certain
about
amount
what
of it,
floods and what doesn't, and
it
it
doesn't
wasn't,
mean
it
that
got
they don't still
carried away
need
with that
the
as
whole
well.
thing.
So what ideally, they're coming at us with a very low number. We're going at them with a very high number. So how do we get somewhere happily between?
Where have the other towns that have settled, because quite a few towns have settled, right?
It's a
Where have
different-
they fallen?
Towns,
Do they have dams, the ones that have settled?
yeah. The only town that I'm
Much more
familiar
substantial.
with that has settled is Vernon.
Yeah.
Where I represented the town of Vernon in that settlement, and that's a whole different
That's a yeah.
whole
Because the dam's
different
right there.
ballgame, because it's
I thought Dummerston settled, didn't they?
Now, when I talked to Dummerston, they said they were. I don't think it was a settle. It was we're going to put it on for something they're not going to appeal, and then we're going to
Say that
see.
again. What's
They're
that?
going to put the value on low enough onto their grand list
So that it
and keep it kind of the same as what they've been having on there, and they were going to let other towns fight it out and see where it
so
ended
that
up.
was my next
I mean,
question.
they
was-
didn't want to spend the money on lawyers,
We
so they're
have-
kind of sitting back waiting to see what happens.
And the main reason
We
this
have
has come up
capacity
for
to-
us is because of the reappraisal.
Well, the reappraisal, but the other reason is the state of Vermont hired Sanssouci's office to do this. So everybody's not having a reappraisal. Everybody's in this boat
Right.
because the state says now.
Yeah, I mean,
It
they
just worked
actually-
out with our reappraisal, and because we had the professional team work with us with the reappraisal, they,
And those numbers came to us not just this year; they came 2 years ago
From Sanssouci.
from Sanssouci. We just didn't put them on
So
until
the
the
state,
reappraisal
why
was
is it,
done.
how is it possible that the state dictates this and then doesn't defend it at all?
So the next meeting, we should
state
invite
is-
the local
the state
legislators
is
in.
defending
there
it.
you go.
Or
The
the government?
the state of Vermont is paying Sanssouci to defend his work.
Right.
Now, the town, any town, is free on their own nickel to go hire a different appraiser and come up with whatever valuation the town thinks is appropriate. But having this, 6-inch thick, Canada to Massachusetts piece of work done, all the towns that I'm aware of are saying, okay, thank you much. We're going to roll with. We're going to
Go
run
with
with
the state
this.
numbers.
Yeah. And at least in some of the larger cases, the state is taking an active role in the defense. In the Vernon case, for example, when we were taking depositions and even in negotiation, when we were in mediation, there was an attorney from the tax department, an attorney from the AG's office, were there. And I've talked to the tax department counsel about this case. I don't know how active they're going to be, but they're certainly aware of it and they're interested. They'd like to continue to get their education money. But really, except for Newbury, I'm not aware. There's some flowage way up north. I think it's the town of Waterford has some significant value of flowage land. But there, I think that appeal is even further behind schedule than they're behind us in terms of where they're at.
Presumably, ours is pretty similar to Westminster and Dummerston, isn't it? I mean, we lie essentially equidistant away from dams on either end.
Yeah, I think that there's less. I don't know what the number is in Westminster, and I'm not aware that there's a pending appeal there.
No, because they put their values very low on
Yeah,
their grand
and
list.
there's not that much. I mean, you get further upstream, there's less flowage land.
So how are they doing that? I mean,
They
if
just didn't use the state number. They did whatever, they came up with another,
the state number for the amount of acreage.
the state number for the
For
value
the value of the
for
land.
the number of acres that are,
They just
part of
set
that
their own
easement.
Special value.
and they somehow, they used a method in Westminster to value the property or the
Different.
easement differently than what the state suggested that they do. Now, the state still, as far as I know, used the number in their
Right.
paperwork at the state level. They didn't take the number that Westminster had in their grand list. They used whatever San Souci's number was, and that affects
did-
the
who did
CLA
that?
at Westminster.
Oh, the state did that for the CLA.
No, the state, yeah.
Is it,
yes.
does it affect the CLA if they, because the state's using this bigger number,
This-
Westminster only billed on a smaller number, so there's a,
So it effectively shifts their grand list.
yeah.
Well, actually, yes. What ends up happening is the state says, whatever the town decides, we're going to use our guys' numbers. We're going to use San Souci's numbers. So if you decide to do a percentage of that,
It increases the cost of the.
well,
I
no,
don't know, actually. I can't tell you exactly what it does. I don't know. if
the
it
state
affects
is
their
only
education rate or-
standing on San Souci's numbers. They're not standing on what the town would decide it would be. And that was a big consideration, which was why we had them come also to each present their case to the town. And it is early days to figure out, it'll be interesting to see what other places do. And places that have infrastructure are different than places that don't. We don't, and a lot of the towns don't.
Infrastructure that's affected. Like
Dams,
that,
yeah. I mean, so places that just have the flowage rights, we're all kind of in a sit and wait pattern. But the state was going to use San Souci's numbers regardless of what we were going to put on.
What I can't say is what that does. I don't really know what that does.
How that affects
Yeah, I don't
what
know
the
what that, I
effect
don't,
is.
I mean,
In theory, it must affect the education rate
Yeah.
because it,
yeah, it's possible, yeah.
do you have a sense, Richard, of the total number of towns that are going to go to court with this? You said Newbury and
Was Somerset
Vernon
one of
already.
them?
Somerset, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a
That was
pending
the guy
appeal
that
in
was
Somerset.
talking to me one day, right? Somerset.
Somerset, Waterford, up in Waterford, I think is even in Essex County as opposed to Caledonia. but they have the upper end of the dams that are in the town of Barnet. Waterford, Somerset, Newbury, and Putney, and I'm not currently aware of any others.
And so presumably all the other towns that are affected, which has got to be a big number, are taking the approach you're saying, of just keeping the
I would
number
say,
low.
and if they see that if they see San Souci's number stand here,
They're going
or
to jump right
Newbury,
on it.
the next year on their
Of course, yeah.
their grand list, they will put in
Yeah.
that number.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a peep about Brattleboro,
Yeah, I haven't either.
but there's got to be
Same issue.
same issue there.
Yeah.
Ask them.
I,
Wonder why I didn't even
Yeah,
think
going
about
up the
that.
river,
Like
it's
they
gotta
were
go
using-
every
and
town.
there's the dam in Wilder. There's got to be flowage land in Wilder and in at least a couple of the towns above Wilder on the river. And then, I don't know, you get up above Rockingham, what there is. I don't think the town of Springfield is involved in any appeals.
Weathersfield.
I haven't heard a peep.
There's a lot
I haven't
of
heard a
rolling
peep about
Weathersfield.
any pending appeals in those towns.
Yeah, me either.
And just out of curiosity, it doesn't have anything to do with it. Is this related to releases from the dam above us or backup from the dam below us?
Below.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, they have a fixed altitude limit that they can raise the water
Water
level
too.
in Vernon and all the
And
way up
this is based on the
here,
maps.
and that's what this is
Right.
based on.
Yeah.
It's not based on releases from Bob's
Above.
office. So this is early on, and I will know a whole lot more at some point in the future.
I knew it was gonna be a long process, but when you put 2016 in that email, I thought, I wonder if that's a typo.
I know.
That's a long ways away. And a whole
And I
other
would say
tax
that,
bill.
that
We're
even
talking
though it
$60,000.
seems at this point as though TransCanada and the town are in different universes, that does not necessarily mean that there can't be some resolution.
Yeah.
From my conversations with Rob Wilmington, who's the attorney who represents TransCanada in all of these appeals, at this point he's coming across as adamant that this 1,200 acre
Right.
business is just
Ridiculous.
nonsense.
Yeah.
But we get closer to
That
really
might
having
gray
to,
up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there will be a mediation that the court will require, and we'll see what happens. I will keep you through Cynthia posted on whatever I hear as this process goes on, and if you periodically want me to come back, I'm happy to come and give you reports and answer questions.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I think what we should probably do is try and keep, your hours as low as possible in the short run
Right.
until we start to see how things pan out. And if it becomes obvious one way or the other, then we either ramp up or ramp down.
Right. And just lastly, on the matter of hours, some discussions that I have in general about issues with TransCanada that affect both of the pending cases that I'm involved in, I'm splitting so that I'm billing half of it to Barnet and half of it here. And that's what I was doing before with a lot of the stuff when I was still active with the Vernon appeal.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff is specific to one town or the other. And there's less in common between this appeal and Barnet than there was between Barnet and Vernon. But when I can, I'll
Give
split
me
it
a
up.
little bit. Sounds good.
Okie dokie.
Where can I get 12% interest? I'm kind of curious.
You can purchase a property at tax sale.
If you have a court judgment against somebody and they don't pay you, interest starts to run at 12%. That's by law in the state of Vermont, that's the judgment rate on interest.
Goods and services.
And that's what you charge on delinquent taxes.
Exactly. Well, on tax sale, we don't charge that. No, it is what we
It's
charge on
1%
delinquent
per
taxes
month,
also.
per month,
Yeah.
so if they don't redeem for that
Yeah.
whole year, it's the 12%.
No, but that's what's still, but that's delinquent even before it goes to tax sale.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
delinquency also.
Yeah.
If you reduce
But you
your
gotta buy
interest rate that
properties.
you charge on delinquent taxes, you would reduce the interest rate that you would have to repay if somebody gets their valuation reduced on an appeal. Because it's not 12% across the board,
Right.
it's you pay on top of the refund whatever you charge on delinquent taxes. That's what the statute says.
So really here it's a little more, because we're 1.5% after 3 months.
Oh, it may have, I'll have to look, it may be capped at 12%.
Okay, all right, check that out. would you?
I will.
I think we talked.
Well, hopefully we're not
I
gonna
think we
owe
talked
anything
about that
else.
before, but.
Do we wish to
At some point,
have an
I'm sure we
executive
will.
session?
Yeah.
Richard, do you feel that would be helpful? Do you have any further input that
To have
you'd
an
wanna,
executive
yeah,
session.
go into an executive session and do a short, briefly
I don't think tonight.
tonight?
I think I've
Okay,
said everything.
that's right. What I was saying is, there's
There
nothing
will
else to
come a
cover.
time, and it may be
Oh yeah,
soon,
I'm
soon,
sure.
where we're gonna have a lot of discussion in executive session.
Yep.
But I can't think of anything significant that I would say to you in executive session I haven't already said. Maybe you've said too much. But
Yeah. We'll try
I
that.
think it's good people need to understand.
Yeah,
it.
the err on the side of transparency.
I do.
That's
Yeah.
right.
It's not an easy
Okay.
thing to explain.
Well, thank you.
So.
all right.
Yeah,
You'll
thanks.
see,
Yeah.
I will do as much as I have to do and no more, and
Okay.
keep you informed.
Sounds good.
This is
It's all
complicated.
so much clearer now.
Well, it's a pretty complicated little ball of wax, isn't it?
Sure it is.
Thank
Glad
you.
to see it. Good to see it.
I will.
But it's very interesting too.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
fascinating.
it'll be interesting to see how it turns out.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Otherwise, things are calm and peaceful in Putney.
Well, buried under our snow.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, what we got up here? Crosswalk.
So I gave you a copy of a letter from someone that has raised a question and worried about the safety of people crossing the road in front of the post office. This is not the first time that, I've never had really a formal letter, but it's been talked about.
This is just for the record from Rebecca Kemp.
Yeah. So what I did when I got the letter was I emailed Melissa from the Sheriff's Department, and I emailed Mark Pickering, who is the district guy at Dummerston for VTrans, because Route 5 is a state highway, so we can't put crosswalks
Right.
without talking to them first. Melissa emailed me back. She raised a concern about in front of the library as well, because there was a lot of activity back and
Yeah,
forth.
that's true.
So I forwarded that to Mark as well, and what he told me is that in order for them to put a crosswalk, what they really need is a letter from the town saying that we really feel that this is important, and state our case as to why we want those there. He then forwards it to whoever the powers are that approve crosswalks. They do a study. It might be, have there been accidents? There's
Sure.
this whole process that they use. But to get him started, he suggested that the board, that something coming from the board of the town that's requesting it holds a little bit more weight than him just saying.
Now, my recollection is when we had this discussion during the sidewalk process was that, because we talked about this across, basically going across from West Street, which isn't
Yeah.
directly in front of the post office, but it's across. And I thought it was Mark who said that we couldn't do it because there's no destination on the other side, and that there needs to be a destination in order to have a
sidewalk
crosswalk.
destination.
And they may
So-
tell us that. I don't.
Well, that
Mark
might be
did-
worth finding out from.
Mark did not say that to me, and
Okay,
he is.
well maybe
he's,
that's changed, or maybe
It was John Alexander that was down there before.
was it? Okay,
And
so
I've-
maybe it's different.
There's a little bit of a difference between the two of them. I've
It might
noticed.
be
So,
worth inquiring before we go far.
Yeah, I can. I would assume he would have.
Just check. I would too, but he may not. For whatever reason, he may not be
Yeah.
familiar. It may seem like there would be, and we just didn't
Yeah, I can
look into it
I'll ask
before
him.
or something.
Right, but we
Um,
support them looking at it,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah, no,
taking
I
a
think-
look at that. And so, I mean, if that's helpful in beginning that discussion with them.
Yeah, I don't think they want we support you looking at it. It's we want a crosswalk.
We want the crossover.
Yeah,
Right.
because they
Which
they're
we
not
are
asking
supporting
to
that,
look into
that
it.
notion, I suppose.
They're
by-
not asking to
by
look
doing
into
that.
it, so us supporting them looking into it is not what they're.
Okay. So
They
the
want
language,
a
it's matter of
definite.
language.
Yes, we
Right.
think it's an issue. What do we need to do to get it there?
well, I guess maybe
I mean, it
sort
is
of
an
what.
unsafe spot. Crossing over the post, we put those extra parking spaces across there.
Right. Right.
So we've created, in
Created a
effect,
destination.
we've created a destination.
Right,
Well,
except there's
asking that
nowhere,
question.
there's no,
There's no
I mean,
land.
exactly,
Right.
there's no
So-
land, which is what the issue was.
Right.
That was my impression anyway.
Right.
I mean, it might be worth, he's down in Dummerston?
Yeah.
I mean, it might be worth asking him to come and look and say,
How do we, what
this
do we
is,
do
this
here?
is where it would have to go if you were to request one.
I can do that.
And then we go from there, because
Exactly.
he might say it has to go from West Street and there has to
Okay,
be a
so I
pad
guess
on the other side.
so I can do all that. But do you also at that point do we feel like there should be a crosswalk there? I guess is the question.
I've
It
certainly
sounds like
witnessed
it's-
it as a
I mean,
big problem at the
So
post
the
office.
clarification of
And the library.
stopping for pedestrians
Yeah.
in the street, might be, I'm going to encourage, do we encourage, people doing, silly things as well? So confined to walkways, we certainly could support it. I think we'd be getting in trouble just having, stopping for pedestrians on a state highway.
But they have to
for
right away
anybody.
regardless of whether there's a crosswalk.
Yeah,
I think.
there is.
I would
I don't
say.
know.
That's what in Vermont, I thought that
I
was
think
true.
so too.
Pedestrians, yeah, I don't. Okay, so
I would certainly say yes. I am fully in support of
Me too.
exploring
Yes,
both of those. I think they're
absolutely.
both good
all right,
places
so I'll have
for
him
it.
come up,
Double
and him and I can
there.
talk about it, and then I'll draft a letter just requesting that they.
And I guess the other thing maybe we could ask of him is to just give an opinion as to whether if we aren't eligible for a crosswalk for whatever reason, what we
What
could request, whether it's, yellow triangle signs or
Yeah, okay.
whatever it might be, to
Or is there
encourage
something
people to
even
slow
in the
down
interim
or, yeah, exactly.
before it gets
Something like
decided? Okay. Okay, so I'll do that.
Okay. Certificates of compliance, highway, town bridge standards. What's that?
This is an annual form that I have to sign that says we have complied with the town and road bridge standards. We adopted them back in March of 2013. We do meet the expectations of V-Trans. It was that template that it was a couple years ago.
We changed one bridge in order to meet one. That was, can't remember, I think that was on East Putney Brook Road or something.
Yeah, so we just have to, basically they want to make sure that we haven't changed anything in our town road and bridge standards in the past year. So it's just I just need a motion that it's okay for me to sign it.
I'll make a motion to approve Cynthia to sign the certification of compliance for town road and bridge standards and network inventory.
Okay, I'll second that.
Move
Yeah,
in
I'll
section.
I felt like
Cynthia
that's
to
what
sign a certificate of compliance regarding town roads and bridge, town road and road bridge standards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, sign away. Sign the certificate of highway voter.
You
Oh,
guys
yes,
voted
was
on
the-
that last time,
Yes.
but
We
didn't
just
sign
didn't
it.
sign it.
We did not. And why was that? No, doesn't
You just
matter.
forgot.
We just didn't.
You voted on it, and then we went to mail it,
We-
get it
we-
ready.
We were, all right.
So I put it on the agenda because I thought I'd forget.
It's a non-verbal protest.
We're gonna say yes, but
Abstaining.
we're not doing.
I did not get out there and actually measure those. That's always remarkable. 66. It's somewhere around 66. And actually, with class 4 roads, a few more. 75 miles. It's a lot of miles of road to keep up every year.
Sure is.
It's a lot of plowing these last
Well,
week.
it's so- Okay, so I see we have a list for the Energy Committee appointments.
Yeah, I got one more since the last time we talked about it, which was
Mhm.
Morgan Casella.
Yep.
I thought we were going to wait till after 10.
No, I think we're giving people a little more time, but
Not much.
every time I keep
Keep
talking to
going,
somebody,
right,
they're like,
yeah.
oh, I've told the person to send in a letter, and I've told the person. So,
We can always appoint more people.
Right.
well, and
Or
I
they can
figured that
avoid
this,
at that point, you know.
what I
keep
was
this-
thinking
continue the
is,
search.
let's get the group going.
Yeah.
Then maybe they can say something at town meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got
And do some recruiting.
That might generate, but these people got on it, they sent their information in, you know, and this keep dragging it on kind of thing is.
No, absolutely.
You're
Let's,
not appointing the energy coordinator, he's already been appointed, this is just a
Right.
list right now, but.
But he is, we decided he is not the chair of the Energy Committee
Right.
necessarily.
Right, because they're gonna, the first thing this committee's
Is
gonna do is
reorganize
reorganize
themselves.
and look at that, yeah. So,
I'll make a motion that we approve the slate of Putney Energy Committee members as presented, which includes Rick Anderson, Alice Mays, Elizabeth Stead, Samuel Wharton. That's the right spelling for Samuel. Do you know, Laura? As it is A-L.
I think it is EL.
And Morgan Casella.
Okay. I second it.
All right, we have a list of candidates for the Putney Energy Committee already listed. All in favor?
Aye.
Ah. Let's get to work. Let them get to work.
yeah,
Thank them all for their service.
And thank them in advance for their hard work.
They should resolve this whole Trans-Canada thing.
Yeah. There you
Have
go.
some.
There's some energy they can,
Get some
yeah,
A
it's
red-
EL.
those in for 'em.
A true red meat issue.
We'll get a letter out to them and let them, I'll try to pick a first meeting date to just kind of get everybody together.
Good. Yeah, what do you have for us in the town manager's report?
Well, I
Solar
wanted to
project
just
updated?
update you. We did get our first round of Green Mountain Power bills with the credits on them,
Mhm.
and it was totally not what I was expecting. It was a very low amount of credit, but that's because the system is not generating
At
much
this time
right
of year.
now.
Right.
There's some questions on the bills. Green Mountain Power needs to sort some things out, so it's going to be a learning curve in the next couple months. But a representative from Nexsun has called me. I've sent them a copy of the bills. They're going to explain the bills to me. There's some that are showing only like a 6 cent per kilowatt hour credit, and it should be 207 or something like that. So I don't know if Green Mountain, they're just trying to get adjusted. And originally the contract from them said that we would pay the flat amount, so it would be whatever that dollar amount was, I can't remember what it was, for the annual amount of kilowatt
Right.
hour credits that we would be getting. We would be paying a flat fee to them, and then at the end they would kind of true it up and make sure that we got as much as we should have. They're not going to do that right now because we're halfway through the year already, so they're going to kind of do it based on what we actually are getting, so that you'll start to see a payment to them for the purchase of the credits probably, they didn't send us that bill yet, right, Laura?
No.
Yeah, so probably in the next round, and I'll try to show that to you this, you know, and I'll keep you updated, but right now it's just not.
I can't remember, well, yeah, but I was gonna say, I can't remember whether in that contract, snow removal was part of it or not, because that dramatically changes the output.
I would assume.
But we've also had a heck of a lot of really gray days.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I would assume that, you know, that obviously Nexon wants
They're
to generate.
optimizing it.
They
yeah.
want to generate as much as they possibly can, so I'm
Mhm.
assuming that they'll have to figure out. That's a good thing about not owning it.
Yeah.
I found how to figure that out, but yeah, the bills just it wasn't quite what I expected. So I don't know that I really expected anything. I don't know what it was supposed to look like.
Well, and it was for what, December or January?
It was December's bills.
So
it was
yeah,
a
I mean,
January.
those are going to be the shortest days of the
Yeah.
year and the grayest days of the year. So
And we got we got the bills, and then we got this like unmarked envelope that had these bills in it with the credits on it. It's kind of strange, but so it's starting. I just kind of wanted to give you an update that that's starting. The town hall painting, the bid, the request for quotes, bids, whatever we want to call it, went out last week. The proposals are due on the 27th of February. I've had a lot of activity.
people looking.
Yeah, people looking. So
Who'd you send them to?
well, we sent them to Southern Vermont Painting and Eddie Charbonneau.
Mhm.
Those are the two that we had contacted us
Mm-hmm.
that wanted to know when it was happening, but I've had at least 4 more. A guy came today and measured. I've had some phone calls because we put it on the state bid website. So
This is exterior?
yeah.
And do you want to recruit more people to bid or not?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
it's out there, and
That's good.
yeah, we didn't put it in the paper. Our policy doesn't. It costs so much money to put these in the paper.
Yeah.
And really, the painting contractors and any of the contractors that we've worked with on any of these, they get an email from the state bid website that, you know, they sign up, and if they're a painter, they get an email that says,
I think I had talked to Mo about it. Did Mo Momini? Did you get a
yes.
Mo?
Did we
comment?
send Mo?
I don't know.
No, not Mo.
There-
It was
Mitch?
One
Mitch.
of them.
Yeah.
Is that Momini Painters?
that's the
I think
Southern.
Mitch is.
Mitch
Mitch
is
is
Southern
So name
Vermont.
saying Vermont, isn't it?
Is Mo Momini Painters?
Yes.
We did not send
Momini
them
Restoration.
one specifically.
Okay. I'll give it a call
Okay.
because I know I had mentioned it to him. So.
Okay, it's on our website, and if they want us to, I can email it to somebody if you talk to somebody else. So I'll be bringing those to you guys. I might even recruit somebody to come in and look at those bids with me when they come in on the 27th. And then what did I want to tell you about that shared municipal? That's the group that I'm in down at Wyndham Regional Commission, that we're getting together to see if there are any services or products that towns can share to try to save money or get group rates, that kind of thing. I think I put it on there because we're going to have a regional select board meeting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. When is
Yeah.
that? It's not for a while.
No, it's in March.
Yeah.
So I just want to. Did I send that date to you guys? It was like.
Yeah, a while ago. You
Okay.
did.
Well, I'll get a more formal thing to give to you to see, and it's going to be over at Newbrook, over at the fire station.
Is that an annual thing?
No, this is
No,
brand. This is
so
a brand new
Hasn't been,
group.
yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean then?
Well, we're going to have this group wants to get together with all of the region select boards, so they know that we're even talking about this.
I
Because
see,
we're
okay.
sitting as a group saying, oh, well, we could buy this together, and we could do this, and we could,
Mhm.
you know, but really the people that are making the decisions should be kind of directing us as to
Right.
the kind of things that we could actually share and maybe save some money on. I don't know. So it was kind of just getting the region select boards together.
Okay.
I suppose I should have put grader on here, huh? As an update as to what we're doing. The grader is up at Woods right now. Basin's brought it up on Saturday. I've talked to the owner since the last meeting. They just really couldn't tell whether they're going to pay for it or not because they couldn't see it. So they have to diagnose what's going on with it. I got the sense from him that if they find out that it's something to do with a mechanical issue or there's a problem, I mean, because he agreed having 3 motors in this thing within a matter of, 8 years seemed a little bit over the top. But he's not going to tell me over the phone that, yeah, we're going to cover it, because if he finds out it's something we did,
Right.
then, so we really didn't have a choice other than to send it up there and have him, they're supposed
What was the cost of transport?
I don't know.
You know,
No.
it's just hourly.
It's hourly. I mean, Brian had originally asked Derek. Derek was having a hard time getting it scheduled, so he called Bazin. He felt like it was going to be about the same, and he had told me $1,500, but that wasn't a number he got from them. It was
Right.
just him doing some adding in his head. I was hoping to hear from them today. They didn't call while I was gone, right? They were going to try to tear it apart and give me a call, but I told them don't do anything until you call us.
Just diagnose.
Just
yeah.
diagnose it, and we need to get them a list of any other stuff.
Did they ever send you other information? You were asking for other
They did.
information
They did.
in some other towns.
Yeah.
Did they send you the records?
He sent me a summary of the records.
Okay.
And the last time that we had really talked to them about this piece of equipment was in 2011. And that's when a representative from Woods came down. Someone was running the grader. I'm assuming it was Rob, because it said that Dennis was out and the assistant road foreman, he talked to him. The name wasn't on there, but that's what it said. And that there were no complaints at that time. That whoever he talked to said that the lurching problem hadn't happened, and that if we had a problem we would call, and that's the last correspondence they have with us.
And did you pinpoint a time when the lurching did actually last occur or not?
Yeah, it's been within the last 4 or 5 months.
It has.
Yeah. But prior to that, Brian said he had reported it to Dennis, but from there he didn't know whether I mean, Dennis may have called Woods, and Woods may have given him the runaround. I don't know. Yeah. So we're in the process of trying to work with them. This second time around, after I came to the board meeting and then Brian was here that next day, the conversation between me and the owner was, and they've been much more attentive in the last couple of weeks. So hopefully we can work something out. And I also called the Volvo rep, so they're aware of it, and Woods is trying to work with them too. So hopefully.
And Cynthia and I had a conversation about this, and I suggested that we might want to inquire with Volvo that if we were interested in parting with this piece of equipment, sort of what they might be able to do for us. And
Sure. Can't hurt.
Would we want to get into
Right,
another
right.
Volvo? I don't
It's
know.
just
But if the deal was, so
Yeah.
Certainly can.
we should have them look at it for that reason while it's up there also. So.
Yeah.
It figures we get all the snow.
Well,
Yeah,
that is a
right.
problem. We did borrow a grader from Dummerston
Okay.
for one day, but there is a little bit of a panic mode because
Yeah,
if we
I
get
bet.
any more, it's been
It's going to be an issue.
well, it's going to be an issue, and then will Dummerston need it? So they're still, they were nice enough to let us take it for a day. We insured it for them for that. We've insured it for the week, so that.
Well, I mean, presumably, if we had one, Nortrax or somebody could probably get us if we needed it.
Well, Brian did call them. They loaned their only one out to, what was the Henniker? Was that the town where
Oh,
they
that
had
were
the
everything
fire
burned
in
right
there?
Oh, that's
That
right.
was
So
right.
theirs is
Burned
out
down,
on loan
remember?
right now, and he did call another place, but he hasn't heard back from them yet. So he's working on trying to come up with a backup plan if, thankfully, this next couple storms is an inch or two, I'm hearing, so.
Right.
We could call the National Guard, they're gonna be going like, bye. So, we're okay right now.
are getting longer.
Actually had some sun today.
That means more hours of brutal cold.
That's
in a
right.
day.
Yesterday was good. Yesterday wasn't bad.
Today was
Today was not that all that bad.
So here's this is just an updated status report of this year. I intended to bring some entries tonight because there's a few, I might be moving some money around a little bit, like my training money, move a little bit into equipment. I want to get Laura her laptop. We had budgeted some, but spent a little bit more than we thought on something else. So probably next meeting, I'm going to really look at the budget, see where we're at, and see if we need to move any money like from one budget item to the other to cover any expenses for the next few months, to try to stay within budget. I am going to be putting the attorney fees for the appeal in the lister's budget, so you will see that. I think it needs to be put over there where we can segregate it as part of this appeal.
So that stays totally separate. He's still in retainer for whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any surprises here for you?
There wasn't, no, when I was here. No. We're waiting for some reimbursements, like the work that was done in the town hall. We're waiting for that grant to come in. They did do a blower door test to test out. That had to be done before the state will reimburse us.
Right.
Yeah. So that was done. I do have quotes in my office for the work to be done. I just haven't had a chance to really, only a couple people gave me quotes, so.
The drywall that has specific.
So,
And carpets and floors, are you moving forward on that? Or
I
not
want
really?
to, that's in the budget for next fiscal year, so that'll be for
Oh,
summer.
okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Think of that.
There's the warrants. That's already. Town report's almost done. I don't know, Laura, did you finish that up?
Yep, I approved the PDF. They're gonna send a hard copy proof to look at. But
We had a
as far
really
as I'm concerned,
We had a really difficult time with a picture for the front of the town report. So we ended up using this in the middle of it. So if you guys can ask during the year,
Think about it.
yeah, I mean we get to this point and it's like, okay, we need a picture, and it is just awful to take a picture this time of year of anything.
Right.
I mean, I'm assuming probably next year we'll have the town hall on it because it'll be painted. We'll be doing some, so that might be what we put there next year. But we get to this point and we're scrambling for pictures. So anybody that has pictures of town stuff.
Why are we tax crediting?
Overpayments, probably they ended up with either a state payment or homestead declaration late, so they had already paid and ended up with a credit.
I don't remember these. Do we do this every year? Yes, we must. Huh.
Yeah.
lots of times they're
Sometimes
mingled
they're
in with
mingled in with the other
yeah.
ones,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So these are tax, those are for overpayment?
And taxes are due, what, the 20th? That final installment?
I don't remember that after the 20th, everything comes our way.
I had a moment of panic, well, it was today because Westminster's were due yesterday. And I had a moment, but I pay them early. I never pay them early. I always pay them that day. So I had a moment of panic.
Yeah,
When are ours due? Friday.
20th.
20th.
Oh, not for another week.
Yeah.
Doing good on vehicle fuel, eh? What?
I just feel it's okay now. I just, when things are going good like that,
Yeah, makes you nervous.
It
You don't-
does.
You don't like it when things are going good.
it's like, although it did go back down at the gas station today. It went up to like
That's the one
225,
thing
and
you
then I
don't
saw it
have to worry
was 218
about.
again.
Oh, is
today.
it?
Yeah.
No,
It's going back up.
yeah.
The trolls have, the
I get
trolls
orders
have let us
from
have our break.
Convenient
Yeah.
that it happened during winter.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't have it. I do have an executive session that we need to do, but I don't have anything under other. I don't have an other business item.
Okay, and we probably won't be taking action on it?
No.
It's just- okay. All right, and any of this old business stuff we can check off the list?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we enter executive session.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.